Hi, and welcome back to the Judith Daniel Life Coaching Podcast, where we give tips, advice, perspective, inspiration, motivation to start your journey. This time we are dealing with and starting on episode 15, talking about strengthening personal relationships. And I'm going to move through these pretty fast because I think that everybody who wants a better relationship, you kind of know where to go with it already, but some of the things you may have forgotten, or you just need to stick with that part for a little longer. I know that relationships can be all different sorts. You know, you can have a friend relationship, a mother or father child relationship, intimate relationship, coworker relationships, and all different kinds, right? You can have associate friendships. You can have intimate friendships. You know, there's just so many different types of relationships. So I'm just going to do an overview of what are some good tips to strengthen those things that are already there that you want to be there. Um, and the first thing that I want to say is, you know, having a strong, healthy relationship, it's one of the greatest sources of confidence because you're both providing mutual emotional balance and a joy. And when you have that joy and that joy is explored and expanded, it really makes life worth living. Sometimes we can get into a rut where we're just with ourselves and we just can't seem to find anyone that's on our level. So when you do find them, and you can find them, just know that everything takes a little bit of work. Why? Because you or they may have trust issues. Someone may have a hard time or not even know how to open up because maybe they have a negative sense of point of view where every time they did that, there was a negative outcome. Or it was going good for a while and then it turned and went south. So don't just think if someone's not opening up to you, it's because there's something to do with you. They may just not know how. But if you want that relationship to work, give it some time. Relationships aren't just, well, most of the time, sometimes they can be, but most of the time they take time to evolve. They take time to see the other person in their element and then to be like, oh, I really like that. Or you can say, oh, that's not for me. But it does take time. You know, you can have a sense of what you think they're about when you first meet them, but it takes time to really understand how it's fitting together. And it really helps your empathy and patience when you give in to starting a new relationship with someone. And it can build those trust qualities. You know what I mean? By investing in relationships, you nourish not only your bond with others, but also your own mental well being. So if you're going at it like, well, I want to do my best, I'm looking for this type of person in my life, I think I need this, I would really love someone who would be on my level. And so now, when you're dealing with the people around you or in your circle that you want to become closer to, you're having this almost sort of invisible interview where you're asking the questions, you're doing the things, you're putting in that time and effort. And when it's reciprocal, it can boost morale so much that it leaves you on a high. Just the same way, if you're dealing with a relationship and it's more of a trauma bond, meaning you recognize something negative that's happened and you both tend to build a relationship on that, and it just never moves into the realm of positivity, but the only thing you all seem to have in common is talking negative about a certain thing or bringing up this thing that happened, but there's no resolve and there's no solution to it and there's no recovering from it and moving up and be like, okay, well, yeah, that did happen, but here's where we are now. If you can't, that is not the right relationship to build on. because you don't want to be stuck in a dark place and you don't want to stick anyone else in that dark place, okay? So, some of the tips are prioritizing genuine communication. What does that look like? Well, that's speaking honestly and listening actively. A true connection begins with both people when they feel heard and understood and respected. And you take the time to let the other person have the floor. And you're not just being like you're dumping on someone, but you're actually in conversation with someone. And if you are receiving the dumping on, like somebody's just pouring out their whole day, and then when it's your turn to talk, they don't have time, we kind of want to steer away from that. Because you're not anyone's punching bag, even though no punches are being thrown, literally. But you can't just be available to feel and take on someone else's emotional baggage that they want to get rid of. That's not fair. So make sure it's a positive on both sides. Even though you want to practice empathy daily and understanding where someone else is coming from, looking at it from their perspective, and you're hearing them out because, yes, maybe they need someone to talk to, but you do as well. And it doesn't always have to be something negative, right? Or somebody like, oh, I am this, and it's never going to be any better than this. And, you can't always bring someone out of something because it drains you and your energy. And then eventually you're going to get to a place of resentment where you don't even want to be bothered by that person because of their negative connotations. And because they can never find the light in something. Or if you bring it up and say, hey, you do this a lot and it feels real negative and heavy, but what are the positive things going on? And if you start to, initiate that kind of conversation and they are just not wanting to hear it, how do I put this? Don't become a victim to their mentality. It's okay to step away. It's okay to say, well, hey, I can't do this today because it's going to make me feel a type of way and I'm in such a good mood. I don't want to be brought down from that. And it seems like you might need, to find the light in things. Find the good in all of the chaos that you have, because I'm sure there's some. You know what I mean? And then do what needs to be done. But when you're doing that, after you've tried, you've cultivated emotional availability, you've been present, you've been there, for quite a while, and they're doing the same thing and you can see their patterns now. Understand when it's becoming a negative for you to be in that situation any longer. Because you shouldn't have your mood brought down by the people that you are associating with. Right? Now, everybody can go through bad things, but when it's a daily basis, when it's a every time we talk, when it's a there's nothing else to talk about except for something negative, that's not emotionally sound. And that's going to take you into a negative mindset. And even if you don't take on their full persona of how they feel, it's going to cause you to be like, ugh, just yucky, and maybe taking it out on other people because now you're irritated. For whatever reason that might be. If it's because they're always talking like that, or every time you talk to them, they say their part and then nothing else is able to get said, or they make it seem like you're wasting their time when you actually start to speak, or they don't have the time for you to listen to you, but you had all the time in the world to listen to them. So I guess this is more of a how to get out of a negative situation when you're trying to cultivate that friendship. Right? Or relationship of whatever kind. Showing appreciation and gratitude also helps with someone else being able to actually know what that looks like and them doing the same thing. So if you feel like it's worth it, and maybe they're just having just a down season right now, Show them about gratitude. Show them how they can, okay, pick a couple things that went good today. You know what I mean? But you don't always want to be the teacher because you want to receive as well. So there's a fine line with it being reciprocal and you having to hold the conversation, or you having to give all of this and give everything that you have in order to let it be a good conversation. Don't drain yourself for someone else's benefit, because that leaves us not feeling well. And because I'm going to say, if you do those kind of things, sometimes you're met with adversity. And then there's a conflict. But there's a healthy way to go about talking about that. And asking questions seems to be the most reasonable way to get there. So if someone, I'm going to play devil's advocate, right? And you're like, hey, this ain't really for me because it seems like you're always down. Like, it seemed like, where do you find the positive in your day? Or what do you do that's positive? Or, what do you do to make things when they're this bad to kind of turn the situation around? And then they can say, well, I don't know how to do that. All I know is to be this way because there's so much going on. And every time it rains, it pours. And then you start getting all of that kind of talk, which can be a conflict to what you were trying to do in the first place. Disagreements are natural. So when you're in that moment, you handle it with patience, focusing on the solution rather than like, okay, but you stay like this, but so focus on a solution of how it can get better and ask the probing questions if you want to invest in this relationship. And sometimes it's not good to invest in it because it's going nowhere. And you want to protect you and your emotions and what you have going on. So invest time and attention into what matters to you. And you can be supportive and not be controlling. But if someone doesn't want to meet you where you are or even rise to the occasion, and they're just stuck in this mentality of negative, it's time to walk away from that relationship, or give it some time and some space, or say, hey, it seems like you're going through a lot. I want to be there for you, but I don't know exactly what to do. And every time I try to speak positive things, you get upset with me. And then you ask the questions again. So what do you think we could do here to make it a little bit better? Maybe you'll be met with adversity, or maybe you'll be surprised and they're like, you know what? I absolutely see where you're coming from. I don't know how to get out of this mindset because blah, 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 right? For reasons A, X, P, Q, M, it could be a number of different things. And then if you're willing to invest in the relationship because you see that they want to change, maybe they just don't know how, then suggest, okay, maybe we go on a walk and clear your mind. And we can look at all the pretty things in nature and have a conversation about those things. Or maybe you go do this, and this because this is what makes me feel better. And then when we talk again, let me know how it went. If you're wanting to invest in that. But you shouldn't feel pressured to keep with someone that's not on your level. And when I say that, that means that brings you down. That's adverse to everything that you're trying to do. I don't care how close of a relationship it was, but you have to look at things and you have to say, is this affecting me negatively or positively? And it's okay however you feel. That is valid. And then you take the appropriate action. And when you get in those situations, if this is something that you want to continue to work on and to strengthen, learn to forgive and let go. That's one of the hardest things that we can do because of the familiarity in the disappointment. So if someone does something adverse, you don't like it, the first thing you want to do is point out that, hey, I don't like this. That's not good for me. That didn't feel good. That didn't look good. I don't like how that happened. And then you wait for their response. And they, I want to say 7 to 8 times out of 10, they're going to be like, oh, I didn't even mean it like that. And then you ask the other question of, okay, how did you mean that? Because to me, it looked like this. And then when they give the answer, if it suffice, and you're like, oh, I can see how, yeah, I get it. That makes a lot of sense. And if the situation is resolved, let it be resolved right then and there and let it go and move on. And hey, there was a miscommunication. Because I was doing A, B, and C, the first thing that I thought about that was something negative towards me when it really wasn't. And then it's like, okay, I get it. And then learn to actually let it go. And don't hold it in your mind as something as it didn't get resolved when it did in that moment. Because now that moment is gone and you get to move forward. And it's okay to move forward. I don't know if we as a people don't know that it's okay to forgive people when they mess up or when they make a mistake, because sometimes it is genuinely a mistake. Or they were thinking this way and this way, and due to their perspective or their points of reference, they thought, it's going to be taken like this because this is all I know about how to take something like this when it's being said. And when in fact, because you don't have the same upbringing as them, or maybe you don't have the same atmosphere as them, or whatever it is, you took it a completely different way. It's okay. People make mistakes, and we only know what we know from our point of references. And then next time, you're like, oh, okay. Now I understand where they're coming from, why they're saying it this way, and it's supposed to be more comedic than for real, And I don't have to always find offense in what other people say, especially when it's my friend. You know what I mean? So we have to give in to being emotionally available to laugh, to play, to not be so serious, to ask the questions and to actually tell our real feelings. Like, hey, I think you went too far. Those things are okay. And when you're building a real relationship, those things are going to come up. And there might be a miscommunication because somebody might be moving real fast while they're at work, but they still want to get this information to you. And then it seemed a little rushed or whatever. And then you're taking it like, dang, why are they talking to me like that? But on their end, it's just because they didn't want to forget and they know they needed to get that to you. It was important for them to let you know, but they just didn't have the time to sit down and do it properly. They just wanted to put it out there so that you know. And it's not anything that you should take offense to. But open communication is the key to strengthening it. And that's how you start to grow intentionally and together. Being real with each other. Knowing that you're not always going to get it right all the time. Knowing that if something does happen, I know the other person is going to say something and we'll have the opportunity to correct it. And they're not going to hold a grudge and go talk about me behind their back with someone else. And now it's turning into this big old thing that it shouldn't have never been. But they're going to have enough courage to say, hey, I didn't like that. Or this is what I felt like that, but I don't know if you really meant it that way because you've never done that before. Or whatever the perspective might be at that time. But you give leeway when you think it's needed just to get the understanding so you can actually get to the bottom of it. And you don't go into that conversation with an already made up mind. You let people stand on their own legs, right? You let them actually tell you what it was they were trying to do or how they thought you might take it or what they really meant behind it, instead of, you said this, that's it, that's all, nothing can be worked out, and you have like a closed off mind to it. That rarely ever works out. But being open, being honest, Not being afraid, well, if I say this, are they going to get upset with me that I brought this up? Who cares? I'm feeling a certain way and I need to get to the bottom of this. That's the mentality that you should have. Why? Because you matter. Your well-being and your mental clarity matters. So, these are just some tips I have on strengthening those relationships that are worth it to keep, and the way to keep growing in them. If you have any questions, if you want to see everything that we have going on, and don't forget to listen to the free layered affirmations, you can start out by going to judithdaniellc.com and you can see the little cluster that I have there, but all of the videos are going to be on YouTube, and there's a link to get there. Or if you're ready to do your own personal affirmation, go ahead and sign up for that and register. I use them myself, and I never give you anything or any tips that I don't use myself that have worked. And that's why the way I come at things might seem a little different from what the quote unquote gurus may say, because I keep it very realistic and down to earth. And these are the real things that us little people are dealing with. And it's not always sunshine and rainbows and you breathe 3 times and look left and everything's going to be fine. No, it takes actual work to get things done, and actual action steps that are doable and are realistically done in bite-sized pieces. So if you enjoy those things and you want to know more and you kind of are stuck a little bit and you need advice, go ahead and see what I have to offer for my life coaching. Send me a message and ask the question. And as always, for the first time, is a free 90-day consultation. So you don't even have to come out of pocket. And we get going right away when I send you my questionnaire and get things going. And then we actually have a real session. So you see what it looks like. We can figure out if we're a good fit. I can see what you actually need and put a plan together. Because my goal is not to be an everlasting crutch, but it's to show you that you have wings and help you to fly and learn how to maintain that altitude. So again, any questions, visit judithdaniellc.com or send me your question, and remember that I am actually here for you. You're not a bother. Check out what we have going on and what the Futures Club is about. New sessions there are going to be starting up because we're almost at the end of the year. And make sure that if you would like a seat, you get one. Because I only do closed seat sessions, which means when I start a new one, there's not going to be anyone else that's able to attend that or start that. But if there's a big enough waiting list, then I'll open up a completely new one. Because we go on a journey. It's a 52-week course, and I don't want to have to stop in the middle, try to catch anyone else up, or those different things. I want to give you the full experience without interruption. All right. I hope this was pretty good for you. But again, let me know if you need anything else. Until next time, deuces.